What was the weirdest rule you had to follow in school? When I was in high school, the phrase epic fail was a thing. One of my teachers became sick of it and banned it. It was quickly replaced with catastrophic error. In 7th grade, my Eng and Lit teacher tried to get us to stop saying shut up, and somebody came up with an alternative. Be quiet with a passion. It quickly became a very popular thing to say. Way back in elementary school, we weren't allowed to walk around the school in groups larger than 3 because it intimidated the primary grades, like ducking what? I picture a bunch of 4th graders in jeans and leather jackets snapping while swaying side to side looking for some trouble. They didn't allow the boys to have door on the bathroom stalls in high school. They let teachers use those bathrooms. Nothing like walking in on your 300-pound history teacher dropping a deuce. The same rule was enacted in my high school for 2 weeks. It had to stop after a large group of boys would get together during class and wander from bathroom to bathroom finding people who were taking a poop and then yell. Clap. Cheer them on for pooping. My school dates back to the 13th century, so we had some archaic rules still floating around. My personal favorite was that the head boy gained the right to grow facial hair and graze his sheep on the headmaster's lawn. Wow. That's pretty generous that the headmaster shares his lawn. No band shirts at my Christian school. But the only ones that would be recognized were Christian bands. So you could get away with almost anything else. Red Hot Chili Peppers. That into cooking? In middle school, we weren't allowed to clap during assemblies because the vice principal thought it was too disruptive. We could only do jazz hands. I had severe kidney problems when I was in secondary school. The rule was that when we were in the yard, you couldn't leave the yard until break lunch was over. Like they literally locked the gates to stop you from leaving once in the yard. I had multiple arguments with teachers for not letting me go to the toilet. Then getting itched at in classes for asking to go or being late. There was silent time in the lunchroom in Catholic elementary school at the beginning of lunch. Ostensibly for prayers grace. I remember sneezing due to allergies and having to miss recess. Never forgave those ducking nuns. God is merciful, but humans on the other hand. No same-sex hugging. Really weird rule. Apparently some kid got sick, and their parent blamed same-sex hugging. My high school went the other way. No heterosexual hugging. They were scared itless to say anything to the known homosexual couples though. Couldn't dance, show our shoulders, or play games on school campus. School dances were sit-down meals instead, as we were not allowed to dance. God is against dancing apparently. Are you from the town in Footloose? Lol. Seriously though, why even host a school dance if you aren't going to allow dancing? No running in the schoolyard or playground during recess or lunch. How TF do you expect to stop 500 children from running while they're out there playing? I had the opposite. Run as much as you want, but don't stay still. Monitors bothered me so much with that. I didn't want to move too much when the ground was in ice because once a kid was sliding a patch of ice, bumped in my legs and made me fall pretty hard on my head. I ended up in the hospital for a neck injury. I was in pain for 2 weeks. And now I hurt my neck very easily. It's not like I was fat or didn't move around every other time. Some teachers insisting that the bell does not mean you are dismissed. Itch please. That's exactly what that means. Even worse. Some of my teachers would hold students after the bell as a way of punishment. It honestly sucked having to explain why I was late to the next class every time that happened. In secondary school, high school, we were forced to leave the school in full uniform at the end of the school. Meaning no jackets unless you were out of the main gates, which are very far outdoors, so if it was raining you were ducked. Thank God that rule only lasted 2 weeks. It always amazes me how little foresight rule makers have with things like dress code. We had a hallway only for 6th graders in middle school. It was really strange because it was in the middle of the entire school. But if any teachers found you there, you were sent to the principal's office. That reminds me of my middle school. It was 6th, 8th grade. And the school was 3 floors. Top for 6th grades. Middle for 8th graders. Bottom for 7th. You had to stick to your level. Besides the cafeteria and gym, of course, which were all on the middle floor. We had one-way hallways one year in junior high because it was overcrowded and they thought that might make movement between classes more efficient. They had teachers in the hallways between every class to make sure you didn't go the wrong way, even if your locker was like 10 feet the other direction. Super inconvenient. Edit. Wow. Guess all those extra laps around the school were worth it in the end. Because of gang affiliations, we were banned from wearing 3 items of red or blue. Things got a bit hairy on school spirit days, where they encouraged us to wear our school colors, red, white and blue. The 6-inch rule. We weren't allowed within 6 inches of another person. 1. We aren't American. We don't use inches. 2. How could you stop hundreds of students from being close proximity to each other? 3. You're making a rule for adolescent teenagers, called the 6-inch rule. Hilarity ensues. My high school started to do a school shooter drill twice a semester my senior year. They had a dude come in the front door during lunch, blow an air horn and shout, "This is a shooter drill. Run." He had a water gun and would shoot kids with it and then tell them they had been killed. Me and my friends casually finished our lunch as he shot us, then left out the kitchen side door to leave the building. Half the senior class ended up leaving as they had this guy go through half the school and through the freshman center over the course of half an hour. It was pretty ridiculous and happened several times, usually during lunch. No hugging. All of the girls in elementary, including myself, would hug each other if we were friends. We would also hug certain teachers because some were really amazing people and helped out less fortunate students like me. We were only allowed to fist bump. Both the teachers and students did it anyway, despite the principal monitoring the hallways all the time to try to stop it. Duck you, Mrs. McRae. Edit. To those asking, this was in the Halton region of Ontario, Canada. Not really a rule. More of a if this isn't illegal, then it should be sort of thing. Someone emptied all the soap in the boys' bathroom onto the floor my freshman year, and the school retaliated by leaving the dispensers empty for the next 4 years. It was disgusting. Travel soap kept in my bag through high school. We had a lesson about how fire needed oxygen to continue burning. So, they said a fire would eventually go out if in a contained room with no extra oxygen. Our teacher then assigned a different student every other week to be in charge of making sure all the windows were closed before leaving if there was a fire. Thankfully, we never had an actual fire. In elementary school we were not allowed to stand in circles because standing in circles led to the gang life. No high fives. In fact, no contact with one another whatsoever. This was in middle school. The staff was tired of watching kids groping each other, I imagine. I've told this story before, and 20 years after the fact I'm still not happy about this. In any case, when I started high school the entire school was open campus for lunch. That year, however, some of the sophomores were acting up off campus. So our principal, in his infinite wisdom, decided that starting the next school year it would be open campus only for juniors and seniors. Think about this. The sophomores, who caused the trouble, who then became juniors and therefore this rule didn't apply to, weren't punished. But us freshmen, who became sophomores and weren't the ones causing the problems, were punished for what they did. So, I had open campus my freshman, junior, and senior years. It was closed my sophomore year. Still think that was unfair. No stomping on soda cans laying on their side and walking around with them attached to your shoes. My senior year of high school, the kids used to skip class by going to use the bathroom and never come back in hopes the teacher didn't notice they left. To try and stop this they made us sign a timeout log. Not that weird, right? Well, when that eventually did nothing to stop kids skipping, they started to make us carry around trackers to monitor our locations. They even would come and check on us if we were standing still anywhere outside of class for more than 5 minutes. Eventually the kids rejected Big Brother and just smashed them all at the same time. Cost too much to replace and they couldn't punish us all. In my middle school, students weren't allowed to wear any clothing with a logo, symbol, or image. And I have no idea why. Bullying. Easy to abuse somebody for having sheet brands. No brands. No issue, in theory. In practice a ball ache to police. Nobody likes a tattletale. Well, nobody likes a bully either. Punishing being a tattletale is the stupidest ducking thing. In college, we had a professor who assigned seats. She claimed she did it to remember our names, but she never remembered our names. We had a teacher who would insist on making boys sit next to girls in class. At the time, aged 11, this was the most horrific thing imaginable. We have to sit next to girls? But why? Few years later on, we had to ask to remove our jackets in class. Not overly weird, but I went to language school and in our French-German classes, we were only allowed to take our jackets off if we asked in that language. Kinda hard for a 11-year-old who was still using Matilda to spell the word difficulty. I remember my school had an autism test once a year. As if someone could just suddenly develop autism over the course of a year, or it could get any worse. In high school, skirts were to be no shorter than 12 inches off the floor. People wandered through the halls measuring. Bad for tall people, good for short people. In my elementary school, we weren't allowed to go inside during recess except to the bathroom. They had a door that led directly onto the field, for a maximum of 5 minutes. The rule doesn't sound too outrageous, except this was in Canada, where it would frequently get to -20°C, -4 freedom units. We also didn't get indoor recess until it reached -25°C, -13 freedom units. Forced to use a hair straightener for naturally curly hair in Japan. Curly hair was not allowed. How dare you be the way that you are? All the girls have to keep their hair short, which was nothing new in a nation school. Strangest variation on the fact was that the dance club girls could all have long hair. But as soon as they finished their last dance competition, they are required to cut their hair short too. In middle school there were upstairs and downstairs, meaning you can only go up the upstairs and down the downstairs. There would always be aides or teachers or whatever watching the stairs to make sure no one went the wrong way on the stairs. In elementary school we had a stoplight in the cafeteria that was linked to a decibel meter, allegedly. If it got too loud during lunch it would go from green to yellow to red. Red meant silence for like 5 minutes. Any noise would cause you to miss recess. Our elementary school had a staircase which can only be used by teachers. Nobody knew why, but some of my classmates were punished for going down it. Our school got divided up into these houses, and form time, homeroom to Americans, was previously decided by year, grade to Americans, and suddenly got mixed up into multiple years in one form. They thought it would encourage unity among the different years of kids. But instead you just ended up with a classroom of kids divided into little groups of their friends and 4 assemblies a week. They are still trying to make the system work. But from what I heard, the old system was fine. I used to go to a K-12 charter school, and you weren't allowed to take left turns. Is your next class to your left? Nope, sorry, you have to walk right all the way down to the end of a hallway before you start back towards your next class. That whole school was backwards. To never speak of the harvest sacrifice with outsiders. Weird small town traditions.